What is up, everybody? It's your boy back with another reaction video, and I will be reacting to what am I reacting to? 3 scary true Chuck E. Cheese stories. I never went to Chuck E. Cheese as like a really young kid. Like you see a lot of kids in there that are you know probably as young as I've seen like uh let's just say babies and where they old enough to crawl. And I remember even as a kid, I was like, that's disgusting around this floor to get your baby crawl. But like when I went to Chuck E. Cheese for the first time, I think took my cousin who is 4 years younger than me, but he I think it was I don't know if it was him. I think it was him. His it was him, his two brothers and his sister. So this had to be 96. I think the first time I ever went to a Chuck E. Cheese, so I was what 10 or probably turning 10 that year. I remember 9. So I didn't really care about at that age. I didn't care about like the animatronics, like the kids, like my cousins. They would lose their fucking mind when they had those shows that they would start. Like they're having and they had an animatronic on. Like I always thought that shit looked weird, and I was like, I know they're robots. They're not real. And I think some kids thought that shit was like real animals or some shit up there. Because there's always a kid that would run up there and try to like grab them, and then you have mascots walking around and shit, and and people jump on employees jumping on stage, usually teenagers, trying to get the kids to get the fuck off the stage. But I was never the pizza. I always liked the pizza. The pizza was good. Chuck E. Cheese always has some really good pizza. I guess that makes sense because like your whole thing, it's called Chuck E. Cheese. Your whole thing is pizza. It wouldn't be good if your pizza sucked. You know, that's like having a go-kart ring and the courses suck, or the go-karts are really slow or something like that, or they're constantly breaking down. So the whole thing you're based around sucks. That would make sense. You wouldn't be in business very long if that was the case. But yeah, I never was really big into that. When I was a kid, like really young, like around like 4 or 5 years old, even 6, we went to places because I'm from Chicago. We went to places like Discovery Zone. It was another one. It was called, I think it was called Funko Land. I used to go, but I think Funko Land was more like a arcade. I mean, they had some stuff like kind of like, I guess you say, obstacle course for kids in the back, but Discovery Zone had the big one. If I can remember, the big obstacle course. It had like a giant pirate ship. I mean, it used to be in there. I used to run around in there because you had to crawl in those places. Literally would wear. I remember one time I wore the skin off my knees. I was playing so much because I was like, I got my knees were like hurt. They were like, it was like a stinging pain. So my knees weren't hurting from like hitting stuff, crawling through those plastic tunnels and shit, but they were like stinging like every time they would touch my pants. And when I took my pants off when I got home, I saw my knees were bleeding, and it's like the piece of skin was just hanging on both my knees, and and I ripped it off and poured like, I think I poured like peroxide or something on my knee. And I put band-aids on. But they're like, what's wrong with your knee? I came out the bathroom with 2 band-aids on each knee. And I was like, I was like, oh, somebody, I think I said the skin fell off my knees or something. He's like, what? And my mom looked and she's like, oh, I think he rubbed the skin off his knees playing because we had just got back from Discovery. I think he wore the skin off his knees. Oh man, I did that quite a few. I tried to be more careful. Like I was squat anything. I was still small enough where I ain't had to be on my knees like some bigger kids. And then I would like crawl through on my feet while I like squat walk through the tunnels and stuff. But yeah, but Chuck E. Cheese was never really like ideal fun because I think I was a little older. It wasn't really fun to me. But and I always thought those animatronics were stupid. But anyway, let's get. I said I wasn't gonna talk for like over 4 minutes beginnings, but I just didn't. But fuck it, let's go. All right, here we go. Excuse fuck out of me.
Remember Chuck E. Cheese? That old arcade with the singing animatronics? Of course you do. I just found out they went bankrupt recently. It made me think back to my horrible experience there as a very little kid.
How they did?
I was no older than 8 or 9. It was like my third and last
I
time
actually
ever
thought
at
they
Chuck
went
E.
out of
Cheese.
business a long time ago.
This specific location closed down years ago, but it used to be basically down the street from our old house. My mom took my little brother and I, and she let us roam free and do our own thing and play the games, while she sat at one of the tables reading like most of the other parents. I was playing this clown game where you had to shoot the clown's teeth out with this little cannonball shooter. I was playing the games that would get me the most tickets for the prizes. I finished the game again, and the tickets shot out from the ticket slot. That's when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned and jumped in my seat.
There we go.
I was greeted with a giant Chuck E. Cheese mascot in my face. He held out his hand for a high five, and naturally I gave him his high five with a smile. He then pointed at the tickets and gave me a thumbs up. I think I just...
Pause that. That should have been a red flag right there because those mascots do not initiate an interaction. Unless it's like your birthday and they come out and they gonna have a cake and all that stuff like that, and they people sing happy birthday like other employees. But those mascots do not come up and tap you on the shoulder. If anything, they see you and you kind of make, I guess, eye contact. They might wave at you. They do not. They are not tap. This one tapped on the shoulder. Red flag immediately that this motherfucker is up to some bullshit because they don't do that. Like, and I worked at Disney World, and basically they have, they had a mascot walk around. They do not initiate interactions. They stand there. If you come up to them, they don't want a picture, then that's right. You initiated that reaction. They do not go out of their way to like come up to you and tap you on the shoulder and shit. Like I said, if you look at them and you make eye contact, they'll wave or something like that. But that's it. But this right here should have immediately got this motherfucker suplexed by an adult as soon as he did that, because he up to some bullshit. But let's get back.
Continued laughing and smiling and said, yeah. Then he pointed at the tickets once more and motioned for me to follow him. So I ripped the tickets from the slot and followed the giant mascot. As we walked across the main floor, a couple other kids around like 6 came up to him saying, "Hey Chucky," and he gave them both high fives. I kept following him, wondering if he'd tell the other kids to follow, but he didn't. He would turn back every few seconds to make sure I was still following. Finally,
Dippin' Dots. I haven't seen one of those in
where he wanted me to
forever.
follow him through this employees only door. From what I remember about how I was feeling,
I don't remember any
let's
Chuck E.
just
Cheese
say
I
a
went to that
combination
had
of
booths
weird
like that.
and
They
exciting.
had just tables with
We entered
chairs.
this narrow hallway, and I
At least
felt
I don't
kind of
remember
special for being allowed access
ever
back
seeing
here.
booths.
Keep in mind, I had the mind and maturity of a very young child.
But
Mascot
basically,
led
what
me
he's
to
saying
this
is I was a
bathroom where he
stupid, dumb
motioned for me
idiot
to
kid.
enter
That's
first.
what you meant.
So I did. It was this small changing room type of room. It had a few lockers on one wall and one long bench extending half the length of the room. That was it. He entered the room and shut the door behind us, and I noticed he locked it. That's when I became confused and afraid.
Yeah, and I've been
I
like,
thought he was taking me to get a bunch of free tickets. What could he possibly do in this empty room with me? He approached me, put his furry mascot hand on my shoulder, and then started rubbing from my shoulder to my arm.
for some reason,
And he
something
seemed as though he
locking
tried to
is
reach lower
always
with both of his
scary
hands,
to me.
And I pushed him off and yelled, "Stop." That's when the person in the suit
Like,
lifted the mask off his
get the
head,
fuck off me.
revealing some sweaty, middle-aged man underneath. He started to remove the rest of the costume from himself as he told me to be quiet. I
Then you
sat
start
there
unzipping
watching,
his
shaking,
pants.
and plotting my way for the door. When I thought he was distracted enough by the suit, I tried to run past him for the door, but he grabbed me and told me to stop. He offered me all the free tickets I wanted if I
That's
just
where I seen hit him.
I started to yell and pound on the
Like
door.
the guy hit the
He
kid.
tried to cover my mouth, but I think he gave up when he realized it wasn't worth the risk for him. I unlocked the door and ran back down the hall in tears. I ran back to my mom, yelling at her about what just happened.
Like, bitch, where were you
Distraught,
at? These
I went
motherfuckers
right
tried
the
to
front
rape me.
desk. The girl at the front desk seemed to be in a panic as well, and I think she called for her supervisor. Pretty soon,
Or they
all
did
the
a
music was
lockdown or
stopped, and
something,
the
yeah.
place was put into a lockdown of sorts.
I've actually
where all the
seen
kids
this
were to go
happen
to
where
their
they
parents.
turn the music off if they
A
looking
bunch
for a
of
lost
workers ran to
kid
the
or
back
something.
section.
They just
Eventually,
stop.
police showed up outside. I had to give my whole story to a crowd of like 6 people, and I was extremely nervous. The man in the Chucky suit was some random creep who snuck into the back section of the building to dress in one of the suits and apparently lure children to the back. Realizing and looking back at that now as a grown adult is disturbing and disgusting, that I was the victim of a predator. I never found out if that monster was caught. I used to work for Chuck E. Cheese very briefly when I was 21 years old. I was one of the janitors slash maintenance workers. I know, not very awe-inspiring. I was broke as hell and needed money. All my job really entailed was cleaning tables and keeping the play areas generally clean. Sounds easy, but there was never really a time to just sit and take a breath. There was always something to clean or take care of. I would also be in charge of turning on and off the animatronics, opening the stage curtains, fixing busted arcade machines, and things of that nature. My shifts would always be later, from like 4 to 10 p.m. My location closed at 8 on weekdays and 9 on weekends. I would stay an hour, sometimes 2 hours after, to get the place in top shape ready for the next day. So this one night, I was working past close like I usually did. Everyone had already left the building, including the other workers, so I was the last one in the building. I was dragging my cleaning cart around the arcade area. I had already turned off all the game machines. I was by that space-themed arcade machine where you had to press the button at the right moment to stop the light on the jackpot bulb. As I was passing by this machine, the space-themed music suddenly emits from the machine at a very loud volume, and all the lights start flashing again. I felt like my heart was in my throat. That's how much it startled me.
Bullshit.
I fiddled with my keys to access the control port of the machine.
Freddy
to turn it off
Fazbear
again.
type Five Nights at Freddy
like
bullshit.
That before. It suddenly just freaked me out, only because I was all alone in that big building pretty late at night. The weirdness didn't stop there though. By this point in the night, I had already shut down the animatronics on the stage, so when I heard Chucky's pre-recorded laugh break the silence of the room, my heart started pounding again. The laugh was short and cut off. It almost sounded glitchy. I ditched my cleaning cart to go backstage.
I called my boss,
like, man,
I quit.
I could see they were in their idle modes now, meaning they would move.
Especially if I knew I cut this shit off.
Often. I would have to go to the control room to turn them off, but this was the second strange thing to happen that night. I started getting paranoid that someone else was in the building with me, but that thought was interrupted when I noticed that the Chucky animatronic was facing me, and its head angled down perfectly to look as though it was looking at me. It was bizarre. Bizarre that I was finding it that disturbing. I'm not crazy, but for my own peace of mind, with my eyes on the Chucky animatronic, I walked past it, closer to the control room. I waited there for a few seconds, and then the animatronic spun 90 degrees to face me once more, perfectly. I swear it was once again looking right at me, and then the laughter emitted once again from the
dead
animatronic.
eyes.
But in a creepy, glitchy, cut-off manner, this time much louder, obviously because I was right next to it. I ran to the control room to hit the switch to turn everything off on the stage once more. I left the control room, and the Chucky animatronic was
you
still
had to go in the
facing
control room and
direction it was
close the
moments
doors
before.
and stay
Left the
there
stage through
until
the curtain
6
and just
a.m.
felt
where you'd be
uneasy.
safe.
I was starting to think maybe it was all just getting to my head. But That's when I heard the horrible laugh again come from the stage behind the curtains.
Yeah,
That was the
is
last
creepy.
straw. I took my card, clocked out, and left. I texted my boss the next day that I had to leave early because I was feeling extremely sick. He said it wasn't a problem, but he never mentioned anything about the animatronics being left on. And when I asked him if the animatronics had some kind of motion detecting feature to look at people, he said no, they didn't. I'm not the most superstitious guy, but I firmly believe I wasn't the only presence in that building that night. And I don't mean there was another person in there. This is a story from my childhood that I don't like to look back on too much. I was 13. My mom brought my two little sisters and I to Chuck E. Cheese one evening. My sisters are 4 and 6 years younger than me, so it was more for them. And my mom just wanted me to come along.
Sound like me.
My mom was playing games with my sisters, so I went to do my own thing. It was my only time ever at Chuck E. Cheese, so I was trying to play every game at least once. Eventually, a worker in a red polo shirt came up to me. He was in his lower to mid-20s, I'd say. He didn't seem that old. He asked me if I wanted some more tokens. I said, yeah, sure. He told me to follow him. He led me through this sketchy back door, which led to a back exit. I asked him where he was leading me. He said to his truck. He told me not to tell anyone, but that he had access to all the tokens he wanted and just kept piles of them in his car. I stopped following when I realized he was leading me to his car.
Yeah, what the
I told him
fuck?
my mom would be mad. He tried to push that I follow him a little more, but gave up. Before I walked back inside, he asked for my AIM username, and I gave it to him. I was excited for new friends on AIM.
What?
For those of you who don't know, AIM was an instant messenger that was all
Yeah,
the
why
rage
would
before
you give him
smartphones
that?
and texting really became a thing. I don't remember his username. All I know, it was something with his name in it, which was Ben. I would sign on to AIM every single night, including that night after Chuck E. Cheese. I signed in, and I had a few friends online. Next thing I knew, I got a message from Ben, so I added him to my buddy list. He said, hey, it's Ben from earlier. I replied, what's up?
Hey,
and
it's
we
that
started
creepy
chatting.
fucking guy from earlier.
He
You know what I
chatted
mean?
with me as
I
if we
tried
were
to
good
convince
friends
you to come to
already.
my fucking truck.
I asked him how he was able to get all the tokens he wanted, and he said it's easy when you work there. He told me he was going to come to my house that night with a bunch of tokens. I told him, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
And he told me, no, it's fine. You live really close to me anyway. I replied, how
What?
do you know where I live? And he said he followed my mom's van on our way
Oh,
home.
wow. He just being real open. Like, oh, I
I
followed
blocked
you.
his account immediately. I was beyond scared. I told my friends about it on AIM. Some of them said I should tell my parents or call the police.
Yeah.
But I waited. Maybe he was bluffing. But no,
Hey,
he wasn't.
you called
I heard a
it,
truck
but
pull
he
up
called
outside
you.
through my open window. I looked out the window and saw the black truck
This
that
is
Ben guy was
ballsy.
leading me towards
He
earlier.
just comes to the
I
house.
saw him get out from the truck, and I know he spotted me because he started walking over to my window. I pulled the window in and locked it, and then shut the blind. By that point, he was already halfway to my window, and he was waving his arms at me. I ran to my mom to tell her. She didn't find it funny, thinking I was kidding at first, but I convinced her after she looked out the window and saw the black truck begin to speed down the road. My mom wanted me to show her the AIM conversation, but I couldn't, as I had deleted him off my buddy list and blocked him. My parents called the police, of course, but that was just for peace of mind.
Yeah, they
couldn't
can't do
anything
anything.
besides make a report. The next day, my mom called the Chuck E. Cheese and asked about a Ben. They said they had no Bens who worked there. There were also no employees matching that guy's description. The Chuck E. Cheese eventually handed the CCTV footage from the day before to the police department for an investigation, which turned up no results. My family never went to a Chuck E. Cheese ever again.
Fucked up deleting him. Or at least you got his username. So you could have told the cops. Yeah. That's that. Like, why did he give him his AIM username? Like this dude just tried to get you to come. You were getting bad vibes off him already. When he's like, hey, you come out to my truck to get tokens or whatever, or tickets or whatever he's talking about. Like, wait, what? Why do you have them out there? And he's like, oh, I work here. So you just take tokens and tickets or whatever and leave them in your car. You're like, hey, you can come out and get whatever you want. Like, now maybe because I was a very uh cautious child. It's probably a lot more cautious because I was always afraid that my dad's gonna beat my ass if I did something like this. And he like if I'd have went out there, my dad had grabbed me and stopped me like, "What are you doing?" I probably got ass whooping for that when we got home. Just for doing that because he like you, especially my dad, because he talked about that shit all the time about not getting in strange cars, not going with people. Because my dad's like I don't know if he actually has this, but I remember seeing on his records that he was paranoid or something like that. He always was kind of a paranoid person. I mean, like, not like cautious, but like actually paranoid. And accuse people of different stuff, but with no proof. Just accuse, and I know that firsthand. But yeah, but in that case, he was just like, don't go around nobody, don't do nothing, and even if that person had no real ill will, he would just in his mind they must have, But I would never do anything like this as a kid, like come out of somebody's truck, uh, following somebody to tell them that to get something from them and shit like that. Like what? Like no, and you never go. Like I remember my cousin. Somebody said, "Hey, we got you can come over here," and they kept trying to get us to. I never seen these kids before, and this was in his neighborhood because he lived with my grandmother, and I knew a lot of those kids around there were like, it was in a hood area, so like a lot of the kids are bad as hell, and I hate to say that, but they were, and I know because I hung around there a lot of them kids were bad as hell, and most of the fights I got in as a kid was over there for kids just trying to start something. Let's fight. And I'm like, well, what? Like, why? And I remember I said, don't go over there with mess with them kids. I said they up to something. And I think around this time I might have been like 11 or something, maybe 12. And and this was my cousin who was like 4 years younger than me. I was like, don't go over there, mess with them. And he went over there, and they seemed fine at first, but I still didn't trust them. They were just too inviting off the back. And because I asked my cousin, do you know them? And he said, nah, he ain't never, he's seen them before, but I think because they went to, and it looked like Sunny D in that bottle. And I was like, don't go over there. Don't drink that stuff. And I said, just go in there. I said, just go in there. I said, I was like, grandma didn't give you money. I was like, you her favorite. Just go in there, ask her for some money, and she'll give you some money, and you go to the store and get some Sunny D. And if you wanted it that bad. And he went over there. The kid had the top just barely on, and he was barely like this, and threw it on him. And he threw it on, and he came back to the backyard. Cause I ended up walking back to my grandmother's backyard, and he came at the yelling and screaming like crying, and I smelled. I said, "That's piss." So he had peed in the bottle, and then threw it on my cousin. Yeah, he was gonna try to get him to drink it, and I guess I don't know if he gonna when he got to his mouth he gonna push it up in his face or whatever. But he did. My cousin wouldn't do it. I kept telling him that. And I guess he started getting more cautious because I was telling him not to do it, not to go over there. And since he wouldn't drink, he just threw it on him. And I ran out. I ran down the alley into the street like looking for them, and they had run off. And I was going to chase them. I said, nah, because I don't know where they going. And they might lead me into something. I get jumped or something. I was like, nah. And he went and I told my grandma. My grandma went, oh, she told you go around and mess with the badass kids. I was like, they came over here. It was like they went over where we live at. And apparently they don't even live right here. They live on the other side of the school, which was like I think like 2 or 3 miles away from where the house was down the street. And we saw them again. We ended up getting in a fight with them. I don't think it was that day. It might have been the next day. My cousin, who he got the urine on, got into a fight, and of course I'm the older one, so I got in a fight with the bigger ones. It was just a shit show. Oh, I got so many damn dumbass fights over there. But yeah, never liked Chuck E. Cheese. Maybe because, like I said, I went there when I think I was too old really to really enjoy it. And I always thought that mouse looked weird. I was like, Mickey Mouse doesn't really look like a mouse to me. It's kind of like Batman. He doesn't look like a bat. So it's a distinction there. And I was like, okay, he doesn't really look like him. But like Chuck E. Cheese, or I guess Chucky or whatever, he looks like a big dirty ass rat with eyebrows. Like he just it just like I was like, this kids think this shit is like, cute. Like what? I don't know. Maybe because I was a little edgy at times. I was like, man, it's Ninja Turtles and Street Sharks. That's what. I was like, that's what. That's what I'm about. And Transformers and shit. I was like, this shit is dumb, and it looks stupid and cheap. And the fur always, because kids always run up touching it. And at least the Chuck E. Cheese around where the one we went to when I was a kid, because it's the same one. And I went to that one multiple times. From I think I was like 10 to 12 before I moved to Mississippi. But that shit, like, and then the kids would always run up and touch it. I think because his fur looked always disheveled, and them other ones, other characters they had there, I don't know. I ever remember was the name of was Chucky, and I remember seeing the other one because there was one playing like a keyboard or some shit. I was like, what fucking things they playing that shit. And I remember my cousin, he actually thought that shit was real. Like these are real animals. I'm like even when I was his age, or younger than him, I was like, that shit wasn't real. Like what? Maybe because my dad, it was no like question about reality, and like I didn't believe in Santa Claus. I didn't believe in the Tooth Fairy. I didn't really believe in a boogeyman. I just believed that something was in the dark, but I didn't know what it was. I was afraid of the dark, but I never, of course, never saw anything in the dark or anything like that. But I was just afraid because I couldn't see in there. So it was like more the fear of the unknown than anything else. But it was never like, oh, it's a boogeyman in there, or something's coming at like some kids. Like I was never afraid like of a boogeyman. I was just like more so I can't see in there, and I don't know what's in there, and I don't like it because I can't see because it's dark. but well, yeah, I just never saw the appeal of that. Plus, I mean, they had like they maybe because Funkoland. I can't. Is that the name of that place, Funkoland? I'm getting that mixed up. I know Discovery Zone is one. Places like that actually had like obstacle courses and funner games to me. So I was like, Chuck E. Cheese. I mean, they had really good pizza, but that was it. There was nothing really else. I didn't really care for the games there, stuff like that. So it was just never really fun. I was like, this place is probably for children, probably like 6 and under. That might be, maybe that's why. Maybe that's why it felt like for very young children to go there. But I've seen. I mean, I've actually we went on a field trip to Discovery Zone. Cause I remember they asked us when I was a kid, like to pick. I think I was in the 3rd grade, and they asked us to pick like where we wanted to go. And they had, I remember they had the Discovery Zone and Chuck E. Cheese and some other place. I don't know. Was it Dave and Buster's? I don't remember, but I remember those two, and everyone picked Discovery Zone. So that's I remember we had. 'Cause I think that's I remember that particular trip the most because that was one of the first. Well, it wasn't my first kiss, but that was like one of my kisses when I was very young. Where a girl I didn't know even liked me. It wasn't even the same class, and we were we were in this part where it was like poles that were kind of like offset, so you had to like go through them like this, and it went to just this big open, well, not giant spot, but it was like a square spot that had a different transition, like two tunnels that went one, like where you go through one to the right and one straight. And for some reason, it was in there, and people, and the kids were, and I don't know when I got over there, it was it was a few other kids in there, and I remember she just kissed me, like out of nowhere. I was and I remember I liked her, but I'd seen her like outside, like, but we weren't in the same class. But like all the kids would line up on the blacktop to go inside when the bell rings. I remember seeing her out there, but it was just like out of nowhere. I was like, what? And that's the only reason why I remember that trip. I mean, I like the place. Obviously, it was one of my favorite places to go as a kid. But that memory always stick because it was just so out of nowhere. And that girl, and I was thinking about it, I don't think I ever talked to her. Like on the and the one thing, I was so damn shy. Like I was scared to even think. I was like, might that she liked me, maybe I might ruin this. That she won't like me. So it's like if I don't say anything, maybe she'll still like me. But and plus I was a kid. I didn't know really like it wasn't like any dating or anything. Like when I was a teenager, it was like it was nothing past that. Then I like you, you like me, type thing. Because I remember when I think I was in the first grade, a girl kissed me, and she just kissed me on my lips, right out there on the blacktop. And like, we could have got in trouble for that, but she kissed me right out there and say, "You my boyfriend now." And I was like, okay, like because I liked her and I'd seen her before. We weren't in class together either. She was in another first grade class, and then she ended up going to another school that next year, which is funny because my friend, well, I guess she's my best friend. Uh, he was talking to me because he knew her because his mother and her mother were best friends, so they would go. His mother would go over the house, he would go over to it, and he was talking about, I'm dating her now. This was like when we were in like the second and third grade. He's talking about, I'm dating her now and all stuff. I'm like, and I remember I was like, I don't care, and I did care. Like, I was like, I don't care. I was like, because I hadn't seen her in at that point like a year or two, because it was in second or third grade. And he started saying, I don't care. I don't even care. I don't even care. Even though I secretly was crying inside. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed my reaction. Whenever you did, make sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Share, subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell. You'll be notified when I upload new videos. Comment down below. Share this video. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.